The impact sounded like a car crash in the middle of the forest. A deep, meaty thud that echoed off the hillsides and sent every bird within a mile radius scattering into the sky. Then came the roar, not the howl of a wolf, not the bellow of a bear. The sound didn't just hit the ears, it hit the chest. It felt like a giant speaker turned up way too loud. A bow hunter, positioned 15 feet up in a tree stand, watched through his scope as two massive shapes collided in the clearing below. The bigger one was 9 feet tall. It was covered in dark reddish hair. Its arms were so long they almost touched its knees. It swung one massive fist in a wide arc. The punch connected with the second creature's shoulder and sent it flying. The second creature was leaner, gray-brown fur. It moved on all fours like a predator built for speed. But when it rose up on its back legs, the hunter's blood went cold. 7 feet tall, long snout, pointed ears that turned to track sound, eyes that reflected the late afternoon light in shades of amber. The dogman lunged, jaws snapping at exposed flesh, claws raking across the Bigfoot's ribs in 4 deep lines that drew dark blood through the thick coat. The Bigfoot roared and brought both fists down like a hammer. The blow cratered the earth where the dogman's head had been a second before. They traded blows. They wrestled. They struck with a level of violence that was terrifying to watch. The fight lasted less than 5 minutes, but the forest remembered. 3 weeks later, in July 1987, a ranger at Land Between the Lakes took a photograph in Sector 7 that his supervisor ordered him to destroy. The image showed that same clearing, empty forest floor, no animals, no birds in the canopy, not even insects on the tree bark visible in the foreground. The ground was torn up, dark stains soaked into the leaves and soil, claw marks raked across tree bark at shoulder height. The ranger kept a copy, buried it in his personal files with a single notation. All wildlife evacuated, something cleared them out. What kind of fight can make an entire forest go silent for weeks? Not just the mammals, not just the birds, even the insects abandon the area. Scientists call these dead zones. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to recognize one before you step into it. Because in Land Between the Lakes, recognizing a dead zone isn't just interesting, it could save your life. Here's what you need to understand. Land Between the Lakes isn't a wasteland. It's 170,000 acres of prime habitat between 2 massive lakes. These woods should be alive with sound, but hunters who've worked here for decades will tell you the same thing. There are specific areas where the silence feels wrong, where every instinct you have starts screaming, where you realize you're standing in a battlefield, and the trees still remember what happened. Learning to read these zones is a survival skill. The same skill that kept our ancestors alive when they shared the landscape with apex predators. We're going to teach you that skill tonight. That photograph from Sector 7 was the first documented evidence of what rangers had suspected for years. 2 massive predators were fighting a territorial war in these woods, and the photo captured what happened after one of them crossed the line. Tonight, we're analyzing that evidence. We're looking at expert testimony that suggests this conflict has been going on for centuries. A secret war fought in the shadows. A war that claims territory one bloody fight at a time. If you were that ranger and saw an entire forest go silent, not even the sound of a cricket, would you have stayed to investigate, or would you have walked away? Let me know in the comments. What's the one sign that would make you turn around immediately? Land Between the Lakes is a strange place. A thin strip of wilderness trapped between Kentucky Lake and Lake Barkley, 170,000 acres of dense forest, cut off by water on 2 sides. In the 1960s, the government moved entire towns out of this area to build dams. What they left behind was an island of wild forest surrounded by development, a refuge for wildlife, and something else. The area has no native bear population, no mountain lions. There shouldn't be any big predators here. But hunters often say they are being followed by something on two legs, something that watches from the tree line, then vanishes the moment you turn to face it. The first documented accounts come from French explorers in the 1700s. They called it the loup-garou, the wolfman. Their journals describe a creature that walked upright through the valleys, howling in a voice that sounded almost human. Native American tribes in the region had their own warnings. The Shawnee spoke of a cursed shaman who died in wolf form, vowing revenge on any who entered his territory. For centuries, these were just stories, campfire tales to scare children. Then the communities were displaced, the forests grew dense, and the reports started coming in. What makes Land Between the Lakes unique isn't just the sightings, it's the pattern. Over 220 abandoned family cemeteries dot the landscape, remnants of the displaced towns. Paranormal investigators flock here for the ghost stories, but the cryptid reports cluster in specific northern sectors, areas where the forest is older, denser, where the canopy blocks out the sun even at midday. Experienced hunters know these zones. They avoid them, not because of superstition, but because of what they've seen. Massive footprints that don't match any known animal, trees with claw marks 8 feet off the ground, and the silence. That unnatural, suffocating silence that settles over the woods like a blanket. Dr. Jeff Meldrum is an expert who studies Bigfoot. He says that if these creatures live in small areas, they will fight to protect their home. This is especially true when they have to share space with other predators, when food and territory are limited. Land Between the Lakes fits that profile perfectly, a shrinking habitat where predators can't retreat, where they're forced to establish boundaries and defend them. Hunters see evidence constantly that something lives in these woods. What happens when two apex predators claim the same territory? When retreat isn't an option? When the only choice is to fight or negotiate? Audio cue, static crackle, radio dispatch tone. Dispatch, this is Ranger 7-2, reporting code 7 in Sector North 4. Complete wildlife absence, no deer, no birds, no ambient sound, requesting immediate, static, silence. That transmission was logged at 6:47 a.m. on August 14th, 1987. The ranger never finished his report. When help arrived 3 hours later, they found his truck empty. The engine was still running. The radio was just hanging there. No sign of the ranger. He walked back to the station 6 hours later. He refused to say where he'd been. He filed for early retirement 2 weeks after. The answer came in 1973, when a group of college students camping near the northern boundary heard something circling their campsite for over an hour. What they saw that night would become the first documented contact with something that defied explanation. The 1973 campsite encounter, first documented contact. The students were from Murray State University, 5 of them, camping in a clearing near their VW microbus, about 3 miles from the main trail. It was late summer, the kind of night where the heat doesn't break even after sunset, where the air sits thick and still over the forest floor. Around 10 p.m., they heard footsteps, not the light patter of deer or the scurrying of raccoons. Heavy, deliberate footsteps, bipedal, circling the campsite in a wide arc just beyond the firelight. One of the students, Mark Hensley, later described the sound as steady and careful, like something pacing, testing the edges. The footsteps would stop for a long time, then start again from a different spot, always staying just out of sight, always keeping that same slow, steady pace. Then came the smell, wet dog mixed with something rotten, not the earthy smell of a deer, or the sharp scent of a fox. This was like rotting meat, strong enough that you could almost taste it. The smell drifted into the campsite and made their eyes water. The breathing started around 11. Deep, slow breaths, loud enough to hear over the crackle of the fire. It wasn't the quick panting of a scared animal. It was calm, patient, like something waiting. Hensley grabbed a flashlight and swept it toward the tree line. The beam caught movement, something massive standing fully upright at the edge of the clearing, easily 7 feet tall, covered in dark, matted hair. The light reflected off its eyes for just a second before it turned and walked away. It didn't run. It walked, with purpose, moving in a way that looked smart, not just animal instinct. What makes this encounter different from normal animal sightings is the behavior. The creature didn't charge, didn't attack. It watched them. For over an hour, it circled and observed. This is how great apes act. They test boundaries. They figure out if humans are dangerous or just passing through. Dr. Jeff Meldrum, a scientist who studies bones and movement at Idaho State University, has spent years analyzing these 17-inch footprints. 5 toes, no claws, flat like a human foot, but impossibly large. The prints match an extinct animal called Gigantopithecus blacki, the biggest ape that ever lived. It stood over 10 feet tall and weighed 1,200 pounds. This giant ape lived in Asia, alongside early humans until about 100,000 years ago. Then it went extinct. But Dr. Meldrum asks a critical question. What if some of these giant apes crossed the land bridge from Asia to North America during the Ice Age? What if they survived here while dying out everywhere else? The footprints at land. Between the lakes look exactly like what a surviving population would leave. Flat, wide, built for walking upright all the time.
Here's where the science gets interesting. In 2009, researchers Lozier, Aniello, and Hickerson published an ecological niche study that compared Bigfoot sighting locations to black bear habitats across North America. They found an almost perfect statistical correlation. Bigfoot reports clustered in the exact same forests, mountains, and river valleys where black bears thrive. Same elevation ranges, same tree cover density, same proximity to water sources. The skeptical conclusion was obvious. People were just misidentifying bears. But the study revealed something the researchers couldn't explain. A small percentage of sightings occurred in areas with zero bear population, places where bears had been extinct for decades. According to their model, these locations should have produced 0 Bigfoot reports. Yet, detailed, consistent sightings kept coming in from experienced hunters who knew exactly what a bear looked like. Land between the lakes is one of those statistical outliers. No native bear population. Yet the sighting density rivals Pacific Northwest hotspots like the Cascades. The ecological model predicts this area should be silent, but it's not. The footprints, the encounters, the territorial markers, all pointing to something living here that the bear misidentification theory can't account for. More importantly, the behavior matches. Dr. Meldrum has observed orangutans in the wild. Solitary males watch strangers from a distance. They make noise to show they're there. They test boundaries, but they rarely attack unless directly threatened. The LBL creature did exactly that. It circled, observed, decided the students weren't worth fighting, then left on its own terms. The students took photographs, grainy campfire shots with a cheap camera. The images show a dark mass at the periphery of the clearing, too far away and too poorly lit to be conclusive. But the size is undeniable. Whatever stood at that tree line was methodically testing their perimeter, circling, observing, deciding whether they were a threat. The students packed up at first light and reported the encounter to park rangers. The report was filed, then dismissed. Misidentified bear, overactive imagination, the standard explanation. But Mark Hensley is now in his 60s. He has spent 40 years hiking, camping, and hunting. He knows what a bear looks like. He knows how animals act. and he has never seen anything like what circled his campsite that night in 1973. The encounter established a pattern. Something in the northern sectors of land between the lakes was territorial. It monitored human activity, and it operated with a level of intelligence that suggested more than animal instinct. This wasn't the last time something tested the boundaries at LBL. In fact, the 1973 encounter was just the beginning, because as the forest grew denser and human activity pushed further into the northern sectors during the next decade, that pattern of careful observation began to shift. What had been curiosity was turning into something far more aggressive. And 10 years later, in the same northern sector, something crossed the line from observation to violence. The 1980s Motorhome Case, when territory turned deadly. The northern part of land, between the lakes, is the quietest area. The ruins of those displaced towns we mentioned earlier, old foundations, overgrown roads. The forest has taken everything back. In the mid-1980s, a family drove their motorhome here for a camping trip. They picked a quiet spot, far from other people. They wanted peace. What happened next became the most controversial incident in Land Between the Lakes history. The police report said it was a stabbing. The family went to the hospital. The motorhome was towed away. Case closed. No arrests. Just another bad thing that happened in the woods. But the police officers told a different story to people they trusted. Jan Thompson worked at a gas station near Land Between the Lakes. She knew all the local cops. They would stop for coffee and talk. A few days after the motorhome attack, 2 officers came in. They looked scared. They told her what they really found. The door wasn't opened with tools. It was peeled backward. The metal was bent like something grabbed it and twisted it with its bare hands. Something incredibly strong. Inside, there was blood everywhere, shredded clothes all over the place. Some pieces of clothing were stuck in tree branches 12 feet off the ground, like something carried them up there. The outside of the motorhome had deep claw marks, 4 or 5 scratches running together, too deep to be from any normal animal. The officers said they found no weapon, no knife, no gun, just teeth marks and claw marks. The wounds didn't look like anything a human could do. One of the officers, trying to make sense of it, asked if anyone had seen anything like this before. His partner pulled out a folded photograph. Not official evidence, just something a ranger had shown him a few months earlier. Sector 7. The photo was grainy, shot at dawn. It showed an empty clearing, torn up ground, dark stains on the leaves. But in the background, barely visible through the tree line, there was a shape, massive, standing upright, too tall and too wide to be a bear. And at the bottom edge of the frame, pressed into the disturbed soil, was what looked like a handprint, if you could call it that. 5 thick digits, each one leaving an impression the size of a soda can. The officer stared at it for a long time. Then he folded it back up and said, "We don't talk about this." The official report said stabbing because that protected tourism. Over 1 million people visit Land Between the Lakes every year. That brings in a lot of money. If people knew something in the woods could rip apart a motorhome, no one would come. So they buried the truth. The official report said it was a stabbing to protect the local economy. Do you believe the government would actually cover up a cryptid attack to keep the tourism money flowing? Type believe or skeptic in the comments right now. Dr. Jeff Meldrum says that if large primates live in North America, they would fight hard to protect their territory, especially when protecting their babies or mates. The attack the officers saw matches how apes fight. Overwhelming force. Then they leave. But there's a problem. The evidence doesn't match a primate. Bigfoot sightings are usually about avoidance. The creatures run away when they see humans. They might throw rocks or make sounds from far away. But they rarely attack. The 1973 encounter was like that. The creature watched, then left. The motorhome attack was completely different. It was aggressive, violent, like a predator hunting prey. This means 2 things are possible. Either a Bigfoot was protecting its babies and went crazy, or this was a different creature entirely. Something more aggressive. Something that doesn't just scare people, it hurts them. The evidence points to the second option. The claw marks were wrong. Bigfoot leaves flat footprints like a person. These were deep gouges, like something that walks on its toes, like a wolf or dog. This matches what French explorers called the loup garou, the same thing hunters in Michigan have seen since the 1880s. A dogman. Dogman reports are different from Bigfoot sightings. Bigfoot creatures avoid people. Dogman creatures hunt people. The descriptions are the same across many years. 7 feet tall when standing up. Can walk on 2 legs or run on all 4s. Long snout like a dog. Pointed ears that move to follow sounds. Eyes that glow amber or red in the dark. And it walks on its toes like a wolf, not flat-footed like a person. The first report came from Michigan in 1887. Lumberjacks saw a creature that stood like a man but had a wolf's head. People told stories about it for years. By the 1970s, hunters in Wisconsin saw similar creatures. They called it the Beast of Bray Road. Inland, between the lakes, hunters started seeing something that was not Bigfoot. The behaviors are very different. Bigfoot runs away when it sees people. Dogman hunts in packs. Multiple creatures work together to surround their prey. They chase through the forest at high speed. They howl in ways that sound almost human. Rangers who work the northern sectors of land between the lakes can tell you exactly what it feels like to be followed by something in these woods. And they can tell you the difference between being watched and being hunted. When Bigfoot is nearby, you feel observed, like someone curious is keeping their distance. The feeling comes and goes. You turn around, the sensation stops. You keep walking, it starts again. Uncomfortable, yes, but not dangerous. The creature is studying you, deciding if you're a threat. Most of the time, it just wants you to leave. Think about that. It didn't charge, it didn't growl, it just watched. Does that feel more like a wild animal to you, or something with a human-like intelligence? I'm curious to see what you think about this monitoring behavior. When a dogman is nearby, everything changes. The first thing you notice is the silence. Not gradual, instant. The insects stop mid-chirp. The birds go quiet so fast it feels like someone flipped a switch. You stand there in woods that were alive with sound 30 seconds ago, and now there's nothing. Just your own breathing, your own heartbeat pounding in your ears. Then the temperature drops, not the slow cooling of evening settling in. This is sudden, a pocket of cold air that shouldn't exist on a warm summer afternoon. You feel it on the back of your neck first, like standing in front of an open freezer. Your skin prickles. The hair on your arms stands up. The feeling doesn't come and go. It stays locked on you, constant, heavy. You're not being watched, you're being tracked. Your brain understands the difference immediately. Every animal instinct you have starts screaming. You are prey.
You try to keep walking, try to act normal, but your legs feel wrong, too slow, too loud. Every step on dry leaves sounds like you're announcing your location. Your mouth goes dry. Then you taste it, that sharp, metallic copper flavor coating your tongue. Adrenaline. Your body flooded with it. Your hands start to shake. You clench them into fists, trying to stop the tremor, but it doesn't help. Cold sweat breaks out across your back, trickling down your spine despite the warm afternoon air. Your shirt sticks to your skin. You want to run. Every muscle in your body is screaming at you to run. But something deeper, some ancient survival instinct, knows that running triggers the chase. And if the chase starts, you won't win. Your pulse hammers in your ears. Thump, thump, thump. So loud you're convinced the creature can hear it. Each heartbeat feels like it's announcing your location, broadcasting your fear across the forest. You try to breathe slowly, quietly, but your lungs won't cooperate. Each breath comes shallow and quick. The creature isn't curious. It's calculating, measuring distance, waiting for the right moment. And the worst part? You can't see it, but you know it sees you. You feel its eyes on you like a physical weight pressing against your spine. You turn around. Nothing there. But the feeling doesn't stop. It never stops. One ranger described it like this. With Bigfoot, I feel like I'm being studied. With Dogman, I feel like I'm being sized up for a meal. My body knows the difference, even when my brain tries to rationalize it away. Have you ever been in the woods and felt that sudden, heavy silence? That feeling that you aren't just being watched, but you're being sized up? If you've ever had a gut feeling that saved you in the wild, I want to hear that story below. But what could explain a creature like this? If the Dogman is real, where did it come from? Some researchers point to an extinct predator called the dire wolf. These massive wolves lived in North America until about 10,000 years ago. They stood 3 feet tall at the shoulder. Their jaws could crush bones. They hunted in packs, taking down giant Ice Age animals like mastodons and ground sloths. When those massive prey animals went extinct, most scientists believed the dire wolves starved and disappeared. But what if a few survived? What if they adapted by learning to stand upright, seeing over tall grass, covering more ground, using their front paws like hands? Over thousands of years, this would create exactly what hunters describe. A wolf-like predator that can walk on 2 legs. Pack hunter, built for speed. That would explain the 4-toed tracks with claws, the wolf-like snout, the coordinated hunting behavior. The problem is evidence. If wolves evolved to walk upright, their skeletons would look different. Scientists would find those modified bones in the fossil record, but they haven't. No transitional fossils show wolves adapting to bipedalism. Skeptics offer a simpler explanation: black bears. In 2009, scientists ran an ecological niche model comparing Bigfoot sighting locations to black bear habitats. The correlation was nearly perfect. Sightings clustered in the exact same forests, mountains, and river valleys where bears live. Bears can stand upright up to 7 feet tall. They have that distinctive musky smell. They make sounds that can seem almost human. Growls, woofs, even screams that echo through the woods at night. The bear theory works for many sightings, but it struggles to explain the behavior patterns at land between the lakes. Bears don't walk upright for extended periods. They stand for a few seconds to get a better view, then drop back down on all fours. But the 1973 students watched something circle their campsite on 2 legs for over an hour. Rangers report being followed by something bipedal that maintains that posture for miles. Bears can't do that. Their anatomy isn't built for it. Bears also don't coordinate pack hunts. They're solitary animals. They don't use vocal communication to surround prey. They don't establish rigid territorial boundaries with other predators. But the evidence from land between the lakes shows 2 distinct groups of creatures, one ape-like, one canine-like, setting up territories, using sounds to communicate, marking trees, and respecting borders. The tracks tell the story. Hunters see signs of a war zone in land between the lakes. Not one big fight, many small clues, things that should not be there. People who know these woods find strange things: branches bent and woven into patterns, clearings where plants have been ripped away in perfect circles, and nests, big holes in the ground filled with leaves and fur, big enough for something huge to sleep in. The fur tells the story. Grayish-brown clumps stuck on branches near the nests. The hair is thick and rough, too thick for deer, too long for wild pigs. When people look at it closely, it does not match any known animal. Some hunters sent samples to labs. The results said unknown mammal. Not bear, not dog, not ape, just unknown. Hunters see signs of a war zone in land between the lakes. Not one big fight, many small clues, things that should not be there. In November 2019, a hunter named Tom Brennan found one of the nests. He was tracking deer through a dense thicket when he noticed the smell first. Not decay, not rotting meat, something alive, warm, like wet dog mixed with musk, strong enough to make his eyes water. He pushed through the brush and stopped. In front of him was a depression in the ground about 7 feet across. The edges were lined with stripped bark and woven branches, not random, deliberately placed. The center was packed with dead leaves and clumps of fur. When Brennan crouched down and touched the leaves, they were still warm. Body heat. Whatever slept here had left recently, maybe minutes ago. He reached for one of the fur clumps, thick, coarse, grayish-brown, too thick for deer, too long for wild pigs. He stuffed it in a plastic bag and stood up. That's when he noticed the silence. No birds, no insects, nothing. Just his own heartbeat pounding in his ears. Brennan left, fast. He didn't look back. Later, he sent the fur sample to a lab. The results came back weeks later. Unknown mammal. That single phrase raises more questions than it answers. If scientists can identify bear, wolf, deer, and every other mammal in North America from a single hair, why can't they identify this? The DNA is there. The cellular structure is intact, but the markers don't match anything in the database. In 2009, researchers ran an ecological niche model comparing Bigfoot sighting locations to wildlife habitats across North America. The study, published by Lozier, Aniello, and Hickerson, found that Bigfoot reports clustered in the exact same forests, mountains, and river valleys where black bears thrive. The correlation was nearly perfect. Same elevation ranges, same tree cover density, same proximity to water sources. The researchers concluded that people were misidentifying bears. Simple explanation: Occam's razor. The simplest answer is usually correct, but the study also found something they couldn't explain. A small percentage of sightings occurred in areas with no bear population at all, places where bears had been extinct for decades. The model predicted 0 sightings in those zones. Yet reports kept coming in, detailed, consistent, from experienced hunters who knew exactly what a bear looked like. Land between the lakes fits that anomaly perfectly. No native bear population, yet the nests, the hair samples, the territorial markers, all pointing to something living here that shouldn't exist according to the ecological model. Other hunters find similar nests along what looks like a boundary line through the northern woods. The nests appear in clusters, some still radiating heat, some smelling like they were abandoned days ago. Each one a reminder that something massive sleeps in these woods, and it might still be watching. On the left, a black bear track from Tennessee, flat pad, 5 toes, claw marks in front of each toe, length 7 to 9 inches. On the right, a print found at land between the lakes in 2019. Flat foot, 5 toes, no claw marks, looks like a giant human foot. Length 17 inches. The bear track is much smaller. The shapes are totally different. Bigfoot prints look like human feet, 5 toes, no claws, flat like a person's foot. Dogman tracks look like big dog paws, 4 toes with long claw marks, built for running fast. Hunters used heat cameras in land between the lakes. They saw 2 different shapes. One was huge and standing upright. It moved slowly like a big ape. The other was thinner and faster. It ran in bursts of speed. 2 different body types, 2 different ways of moving, 2 different creatures living in the same woods. Dr. Jeff Meldrum says that big predators rarely live together without making rules. In Yellowstone, grizzly bears and wolves share space by marking boundaries. They use smells and sounds. Each animal knows where the other hunts, where the lines are. Crossing those lines starts a fight. The same thing would happen in land between the lakes. If Bigfoot and Dogman both live here, they can't share the same space. The forest is too small. There's not enough food. One would push the other out, or they would make boundaries, territories that each side protects. The evidence shows they made boundaries. Hunters find markers in the northern woods, trees with bark ripped off at certain heights, piles of rocks in patterns, and fur caught on branches, grayish-brown hair that doesn't match any known animal. The fur appears in groups along what looks like a boundary line. On one side, huge footprints. On the other side, dog-like tracks. Like an invisible line splits the forest. A line that both creatures know and respect. Hunters see signs of a war zone in land between the lakes. Not one big fight. Many small clues. Things that should not be there. People who know these woods find strange things. Branches bent and woven into patterns. Clearings where plants have been ripped away in perfect circles. And nests. Big holes in the ground filled with leaves and fur. Big enough for something huge to sleep in. The signs appear along a line through the northern woods. Trees have claw marks 8 to 10 feet off the ground. Black bears only scratch trees at 4 to 6 feet high. These marks are too high. They run straight down, like something stood up tall and dragged its claws down the bark. These marks appear over and over. They follow what looks like a border. On one side, hunters find huge flat footprints, Bigfoot prints. On the other side, they find dog-like tracks, Dogman prints. The two types of tracks almost never cross. Like each creature knows where the line is. Like crossing it means trouble. Hunters also find knocked over trees, not broken by storms, pushed over on purpose. The roots are ripped out of the ground. It takes massive strength to do this. These fallen trees make walls. They mark territory better than anything else. Dr. Jeff Meldrum says that bears and wolves share space by making sounds and marking smells. They create zones between them. The same thing happens inland, between the lakes. But the signs point to something smarter than normal animals. Hunters hear wood knocking in the northern woods. Sharp hits that echo through the trees. 3 knocks. Pause. 3 more knocks. The sound travels for miles. Scientists know this pattern. Chimpanzees bang on trees to tell others where they are. Orangutans do the same thing. If Bigfoot is real, wood knocking makes sense. It is a way to talk across long distances in thick forest. But wood knocking is not the only sound. Hunters also hear howling far away. Not the high yips of coyotes. Not the sad cry of wolves. These howls are deeper, louder, and they follow a pattern. First the wood knocking, then minutes later, howling from a different spot. Like 2 different creatures talking to each other, telling each other where they are, keeping the peace. But sometimes the line gets crossed. In October 2018, a bow hunter named Marcus Webb saw what happens when that line breaks. He was sitting in a tree stand 15 feet up. He heard something below, heavy steps, moving through the bushes. The ground shook with each step. The Bigfoot came from the west first. Huge, 9 feet tall. Dark reddish-brown hair covered its body. It walked hunched forward, like in the old Patterson film. Not standing straight like a person. The shoulders were massive. Arms hung down, almost to its knees. The creature stopped at the border. Webb could see it from above. The Bigfoot looked around, turned its head slowly. Then it took 3 steps forward. It crossed the line. The Dogman came fast. It ran from the east, low to the ground like a wolf hunting prey. But it was too big, way too big. When it stood up on its back legs, it was 7 feet tall. Gray-brown fur, long snout, pointed ears that moved to track sound, eyes that glowed amber in the light. The Bigfoot turned to face it. It did not run. It planted its feet. The message was clear. "This is my territory now," the Dogman growled. Webb felt it in his chest. Not like a pet dog. This was deep. The kind of sound that makes you want to run. But the Bigfoot did not move. The Dogman attacked first. It closed the gap in 3 jumps, faster than anything that big should move. It went low, going for the legs, trying to bring the bigger creature down. The Bigfoot was ready. It swung one huge arm. The hit was loud, a deep thud as the backhand slammed into the Dogman's shoulder. The force sent the Dogman flying sideways. It hit the ground hard, rolled once, then it was back on its feet. The Bigfoot moved forward fast, both arms out, trying to grab and hold, get the Dogman close, use its weight to crush. But the Dogman ducked under the arms. It spun on its back legs. As it turned, it slashed with one clawed hand. 4 lines ripped across the Bigfoot's ribs. Dark blood showed through the thick hair. The Bigfoot roared, a deep sound that shook the trees. It spun fast and brought both fists down like a hammer, aimed right at the Dogman's head. The Dogman dropped flat. The blow missed by inches. It slammed into the ground instead. Dirt and leaves exploded everywhere. The Dogman jumped on the Bigfoot's leg, jaws snapping, teeth sinking into thick muscle. The Bigfoot bellowed and kicked hard. The Dogman let go and jumped back. Both creatures circled. The Bigfoot was bleeding, deep cuts across its chest, a bite wound on its leg, but it was still standing. The Dogman looked fine, but was breathing hard. Webb watched. Neither creature would give up. Neither would back down. This was not mindless animal rage. This was smart. Both were thinking, figuring out if the fight was worth it. The Bigfoot made the choice. It stood up to full height, arms spread wide, showing its size and strength. Then it made a sound Webb had never heard. Not a roar, not a howl, something in between. A sound that said both, "I'm angry," and "get out." The Dogman howled back, higher, longer, but after a few seconds, it started backing away. Not running, not scared, just deciding the fight was not worth the land. The Bigfoot stayed put until the Dogman vanished into the trees. Then it turned and limped back across the border, moving slower now, hurt leg dragging, blood marking where it walked. Webb stayed in his tree stand until after dark. His legs had gone numb from sitting motionless for hours, but he didn't dare move until the forest settled back into its normal rhythms. Even then, climbing down felt wrong, like descending into a crime scene where the criminals might still be watching. When his boots finally touched the ground, his knees nearly buckled. He steadied himself against the tree trunk and clicked on his flashlight. The beam felt pathetically small against the vast darkness pressing in from all sides. The trees that had seemed familiar in daylight now loomed like silent witnesses, their shadows stretching and reaching toward him. He forced himself to walk to the clearing. The smell hit him first, heavy, metallic. The unmistakable scent of fresh blood hanging thick in the humid air. Not the clean smell of a deer kill. This was different, richer, almost human. It coated the back of his throat and made his stomach turn. The ground was ripped apart, huge holes where the Bigfoot's fists had cratered the earth. Claw marks gouged deep into tree bark, and blood, dark stains soaked into the leaves and dirt, still glistening wet in the flashlight beam. His hand shook as he pulled plastic bags from his pack. He collected samples, wrote down the GPS location with fingers that could barely grip the pen. Every rustle of leaves made him freeze. Every snap of a twig sent his heart racing again. He was alone in the dark, in a place where 2 monsters had just tried to kill each other, and they could still be watching. Webb left as fast as he could without running, because running meant prey. And he'd just seen what happened to prey in these woods. He sent the samples to a lab. The results came back 3 weeks later with more questions than answers. Unknown mammal was the classification, but the report included a note that stopped Webb cold. Sample contains unusual DNA markers inconsistent with known North American fauna. High concentration of stress hormones suggests recent aggressive encounter. Not bear, not dog, not ape, something that had just been in a fight. Webb's result wasn't an isolated case. Over the past 15 years, researchers across Kentucky and Tennessee have collected dozens of biological samples from the region, hair caught on barbed wire, scat found near territorial markers, tissue samples from claw marks on trees. Independent labs in 3 different states have analyzed these samples. The results keep coming back the same way: unknown mammal. Dr. Henner Fehrenbach, a biomedical research scientist who specialized in primate hair analysis before his death in 2020, examined over 30 hair samples collected from locations near land between the lakes. His conclusion? The samples showed characteristics of both primate and unknown mammal, with a protein structure that didn't match anything in the existing database of North American wildlife. What makes this particularly compelling is the consistency. Different collectors, different labs, different time periods spanning 2 decades, yet the DNA markers show the same unidentified primate/canid characteristics. Webb didn't just get lucky with one strange sample. He tapped into a larger body of documented evidence that scientists are still trying to explain. A DNA sample that says unknown mammal in a forest with no native bears. At this point in the evidence, are you leaning toward the bear theory, or do you think the DNA proves we're looking at a completely new species? Webb saw proof that day, proof of what happens when you cross the line. The fight was short, less than 5 minutes, but it was brutal. 2 huge predators fighting hard, and both knew when to stop, when the cost was too high. The borders hold because both creatures understand what crossing the line means. Blood, pain, risk. And in woods that keep getting smaller, neither can afford to lose. This wasn't a fight to the death. It was a negotiation for land. Do you think it's possible that these 2 species have a silent treaty that we're only just now discovering? It changes everything we think we know about the wild. A trail camera in 2021 caught something on video. The camera was set up along the border. At 3:47 in the morning, a huge shape walked through the shot. Only 4 seconds of footage, but the size was clear, 7 feet tall. Walking hunched forward, just like people describe Bigfoot. 30 seconds later, the same camera caught fast movement, something low to the ground, running on all 4s. The heat signature showed a thin body, pointed ears. It looked like a big dog, but the size was wrong. Too big for a wolf, too thin for a bear. The 2 creatures never showed up together, but the timing tells the story. When the first one walked by, the second one came from the other direction, like an answer, a warning, stay on your side. This evidence points to something wild. 2 huge predators sharing the same small woods, not by fighting all the time, but by making deals, by setting borders and sticking to them. What happens when those borders break? When someone crosses? When the deal falls apart? Look at land between the lakes from above. 170,000 acres of thick forest between 2 big lakes. Zoom in on the north, the old between the rivers area. Red zones show where people found Bigfoot tracks from 2015 to 2023, along the western hills, in the valleys, huge footprints, 17 inches long. Blue zones show where people saw Dogman, near the eastern lake shore, where old towns used to be, dog-like tracks, walking on toes like wolves, signs of packs working together. The red and blue zones do not touch. They run side by side, with a gap about 2 miles wide between them. A no man's land where neither creature goes. An invisible line cutting through the forest. Then humans pushed in deeper. The gap got smaller. In the 2020s, people went further into the zone, and the creatures had nowhere left to go. In 2023, a film crew made a documentary called Dogman Territory. What they filmed proved what hunters had been saying for years. They found ripped tents at campsites, gear thrown everywhere like something tore through looking for food. But the scariest part was the silence. No animals anywhere in the main parts of land between the lakes. No deer tracks, no bird sounds. The kind of silence that makes your ears ring, that presses against your skull until you can hear your own pulse hammering. The crew put up trail cameras all over the northern area. They did not get clear shots of creatures, no proof you could hold in your hand. But the pattern was obvious. Animals stayed away from certain zones completely. Deer that normally sleep in thick bushes walked around these areas. They took longer paths to water, like they knew something people did not, like they understood what happens when you cross the wrong line. Hunters who have worked these woods since the 1990s say things changed in the last 5 years. That prickle on the back of your neck doesn't go away anymore. It lasts for hours. You set up a tree stand at sunrise. By mid-morning, you realize you have not seen a single animal. No squirrels, no birds, nothing. The silence becomes so complete, you can hear the blood moving through your own veins. Your breathing sounds unnaturally loud. Every small movement of your jacket fabric feels like it's announcing your location to something watching from the darkness between the trees. In 2021, a bow hunter named David Keller spent 3 days in the northern woods. He has hunted for 30 years across Kentucky and Tennessee. He knows how to move quietly, how to read tracks, how to blend into the forest. On the second day, he found huge footprints circling his spot. The tracks made a complete loop around his tree stand, 17 inches long, 5 clear toes. No claw marks. Something had walked all the way around him while he sat still 20 feet up in the tree. Keller left that afternoon. He has not been back since. Official wildlife studies back up these stories. The Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency counts animals every year. The pattern is clear. Deer populations are strong at the borders of land between the lakes. The southern areas near the visitor center have plenty of deer. The eastern and western edges along the lakes show normal numbers. But the interior northern sectors, the old between the rivers area, have far fewer animals. Like something is keeping them out. A trail camera in 2022 caught what looks like a face-off. The footage is short, less than 10 seconds. 2 big shapes show up at the same time. One standing tall and huge near a fallen oak tree. The other low to the ground, moving like an animal on 4 legs. The night vision camera cannot see clearly at that distance. Both shapes just look like dark shadows. But you can tell what is happening. The tall figure turns toward the other one. The lower figure stops, stays still, then backs away slowly before leaving the shot. Park rangers brush off the reports like they always do. The howls are coyotes. The feeling of being watched is just nerves. The missing wildlife is animals moving around with the seasons. Every answer is meant to keep people thinking. Land between the lakes is safe. That the northern woods are just normal forest. That there is nothing to be scared of. But the numbers tell a different story. The northern campsites stay empty, even though they have better facilities. Hunters who used to reserve those spots years ahead of time now ask for spots near the southern edge. The pattern is clear to anyone who pays attention. People feel it, that wrongness in the air, that feeling you are walking in a place that does not belong to you. That photograph from July 1987, the one the boss told the ranger to destroy. The ranger understood what it meant. Every animal had left that part of the forest. Not because of a fire, not because of bad weather, because something had taken total control. Every living thing knew to stay away. The boss wanted to hide the photo. He knew what it proved. Rangers had been right for years. 2 giant predators were fighting a war in land between the lakes. The photo showed what happened after someone broke the rules. One creature crossed the line. The forest went dead silent. The ranger kept a copy of the photo. Some secrets are too big to hide. The proof keeps piling up. footprints that do not match any known animal, recordings of wood knocking followed by howls, trail cameras catching huge shapes in areas where no animals go. The northern woods stay silent. The safe zone between the territories keeps getting smaller. The fights are getting worse. If you plan to visit land between the lakes or any deep wilderness, memorize what I'm about to tell you. These are the 3 rules of the North Woods. The survival protocol that separates people who walk out of the forest from people who don't. Rule 1. Trust the silence. If the forest goes quiet, no birds, no insects, total silence, you have crossed a territorial boundary. Your body knows this. That's why your heart is pounding. That's why the hair on your neck is standing up. This is not the time to be curious. This is the time to leave. Immediately. Do not investigate. Do not try to film it. Turn around and get out. Rule 2. Recognize the pattern. Wood knocking followed by howling means 2 things are communicating across distance. You are standing in the middle of their conversation. That makes you either an obstacle or a target. The college students in 1973 were watched and allowed to leave. The family in the 1980s was not so lucky. The difference? The students left at first light. The family stayed. Rule 3. Respect the dead zones. The northern sectors of land between the lakes are not empty because animals moved somewhere else. They are empty because something owns that land, something that does not share. Stay on marked trails. Avoid the interior northern areas completely, and never enter these zones at dawn or dusk. That is when apex predators hunt. These 3 rules are not superstition. They are biology. They are the same instincts that kept humans alive for 200,000 years. Your modern brain might try to rationalize them away. Don't let it. The deeper you go into the danger zone, the more likely something will see you as a threat or as food. But if you have seen something weird in land between the lakes, tell us about it. We want to hear your story. Take clear photos if you can. Write down the exact location. Record any sounds you hear. Save any evidence you find like hair or footprints. Every big discovery in history started with people seeing something strange. Scientists said it was not real, until the proof became too strong to ignore. The truth from 1987 is still out there, still hiding in those silent northern woods. The question is whether we are brave enough to look for it. But if you have seen something weird in land between the lakes, tell us about it. We want to hear your story. Take clear photos if you can. Write down the exact location. Record any sounds you hear. Save any evidence you find like hair or footprints. Every big discovery in history started with people seeing something strange. Scientists said it was not real, until the proof became too strong to ignore. Tell us what you saw in the comments below, and hit subscribe so you do not miss our next investigation into the secrets hiding in these forests.